Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, folks. Welcome to today's final front load before the stream and another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers and small rant, maybe, we'll see. So I went on Twitter briefly for a second to look up on this insanity because freaking crackpot Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And somebody put up here that the people who run this country, who really run it, not talking about the shills who sit in Congress and the Senate, I'm talking about the real people, the money bag behind the country. Let's put it that way, or money bags, as it were. I'm reminded very strongly of one of the last comedy specials that George Carlin did. And yes, I'm a huge George Carlin fan. A good majority of Gen X was. We grew up with the man. He went on a rant that was particularly, well, let's just say, very true. It's a big club. You and me, we're not in it. These individuals are paid shills. As an advocate, I know this firsthand. All right? When you're wheeling and dealing, it is very rare that you'll meet an individual who will actually do something because it's the right thing to do. Oh, all of them talk a big talk. They will pander and schmooze and say all the right things that align with your beliefs. But as Robert Williams once said, I would love if these individuals would be forced to wear jackets like race car drivers with patches of all those who have basically bought them. Because that's all it is. If you think it's anything different, either you're gullible or you're selling something. To the disclaimers, shall we? In the description box, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It's written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much, speaking of people with too much money and power, that they had threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. Also included in there is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Also included in there, the Ozarks' first article in regards to the Agape boarding school, now known as Stone for Help boarding school situation, a so-called Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has impending, folks, over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the Missouri Department of Social Services, and they include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation. Folks, that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor who still lives on the premises with full access to the boys, up on multiple, again, substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault the boys there. You have an attorney general too busy chasing after drag queens and trying and failing to defund public libraries to actually do his job. And I don't know what to tell you about my governor at this point, so please read that article, share it on all your social media. Also included in there, all the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet of shockable offenses, a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, and the ever-present self-explanatory Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, all right? Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised, all right? Now we're bringing up another case that we have not gone over before when it comes to the JRC. In fact, it is known as Justice for Sara Villa. Now, this happened it's been a few years. We'll get to that here in a moment, but we're going to go ahead and read through this, and thankfully, it is not nearly the word salad that we've had to endure from Dr. Matthew Israel. So let's get to it, shall we? We're going to go over this because legalese. Parties. Sara Villa is an 18-year-old woman with multiple disabilities and a resident of South Lake Tahoe, California. She is currently placed in the psychiatric unit of the College Hospital in Cerritos, California. At the time of the events described in this complaint, she was a minor. Johnny and Marie Villa are Sara Villa's parents and temporary conservators. They have filed a petition with the Superior Court of El Dorado County, California, for the permanent conservatorship over her. We'll move past that. Let's go past that. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center is a residential school for children and adults with intellectual and developmental and psychological disabilities. We'll get past that. Devon Martinez is an employee of the Judge Rotenberg Center and a resident of Dorchester, Massachusetts. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has jurisdiction to hear this civil action under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 212 and 4. This court is the proper venue for this action under the Mass General Laws 223, and because the Judge Rotenberg Center has its principal place of business in Norfolk County. Statement of facts. God, hits me in the feels. I love my facts. Facts don't care about your feelings. Sara Villa has multiple disabilities that affect her development, health, emotional regulation, behavior. These include fetal alcohol syndrome, which has resulted in intellectual disability and limited impulse control, as well as heart problems that are necessitated a placement of a shunt. Autism spectrum disorder, which causes her to experience sensory overload in crowded spaces in response to certain types of physical touch. And schizophrenia, which causes her to experience both audio, command, and visual hallucinations. As a student with disabilities, Ms. Villa has received special education services from the Lake Tahoe Unified School District. The school district has relied on federal funding to provide these services. After determining that it could not meet her special educational needs, the school district decided to place Ms. Villa at a private out-of-state residential school for the 2017-2018 school year. So this is recent, folks. Extremely recent. In search for and deciding on an appropriate program, the school district received a program description from the Judge Rotenberg Center, which represented that its educational and vocational program is totally individualized and based on each student's needs. We all know it's not. And their transition services are a bad joke. And teaches skills, individually tailored instruction. We all know they don't. It would only use corporal and other forms of punishment, which are referred to as aversive procedures, with approval from both a student's parents and a Massachusetts probate court, which we know they have no problems with ripping away parental rights and using the courts to do it. Its employees are carefully selected, highly trained, and fully supervised. These people have a higher turn rate than McDonald's. Based on the Judge Rotenberg's decision to admit Ms. Villa and its representations about its program and qualifications, the school district decided to place her at its facility. Because the school district assured them that the Judge Rotenberg Center was able to meet Ms. Villa's needs, her parents, Johnny and Marie Villa, agreed to the placement. The Judge Rotenberg Center and the school district entered into a written, non-public, non-secretarian school agency service master contract for 2017-2018 school year. The master contract included the following terms, among others. The Judge Rotenberg Center's employees were only permitted to use emergency interventions such as physical restraint on Miss Villa to control unpredictable, spontaneous behavior that posed clear and present danger of serious physical harm and could not immediately be prevented by a less restrictive response. They didn't remember, they shock us for standing up longer than 3 seconds. The Judge Rotenberg Center was forbidden from authorizing, ordering, consenting, or paying for any intervention that is designed to or likely to cause physical pain to Miss Villa. The Judge Rotenberg Center was forbidden from authorizing, ordering, consenting to, or paying for an intervention that was designed to used to subject, or likely subject Miss Villa to verbal abuse, ridicule, or humiliation, or that can be expected to cause her excessive emotional trauma. Other words, no behavioral rehearsal lessons. The Judge Rotenberg Center was required to review and revise its restraint practices if these practices had an adverse effect or were used repeatedly on Ms. Villa within the same classroom or by the same employee. The Judge Rotenberg's employees, subcontractors, and volunteers were required to adhere to customary professional and ethical standards when providing services, including those established in the district's public available school board policies. The district's professional standards policy prohibits physically abusing, sexually abusing, neglecting, or otherwise willfully harming or injuring a child. Funny that, right? When their whole school is literally built on harming kids. The school district would pay the Judge Rotenberg Center $749 a day for its services. Prior to Miss Villa's enrollment, the Judge Rotenberg Center and its administration received Miss Villa's special educational and mental health treatment records. Among other things, these records indicated that she experienced psychosis and that she required special transportation to and from school separate from the regular school bus. The Judge Rotenberg Center's clinical staff reviewed these records and received collateral information about Miss Villa before she arrived. Miss Villa arrived at the Judge Rotenberg Center on November the 28th, 2017, and left on February the 19th, 2018. The Judge Rotenberg Center failed to accommodate Miss Villa's documented disability-related need for separate transportation to and from school. Instead, it listed refusing daily transportation in her behavior plan as a target behavior for which its employees were authorized to punish her. But you followed the IEPs, right? This failure to provide a reasonable accommodation led to her experienced stress to the extent that she kicked through the bus window on the 8th of January 2018, sustaining a cut that required 10 stitches. The Judge Rotenberg Center and its employees knowingly failed to accommodate and in fact punished Miss Villa for her disabilities by classifying Miss Villa's symptoms of schizophrenia, including bizarre speech and having hallucinations, as major disruptive behaviors for which it authorized its employees to punish her. God, that's horrifying. It's horrifying. As a person who has an uncle with schizophrenia, anybody did this to him, better bet I'm going after them. All guns blazing. Requiring Ms. Villa to handle her concerns and frustrations by writing a student business letter to her treatment team to avoid punishment, despite her known intellectual disability and struggles with impulse control. Removing and excluding Ms. Villa from the classroom as punishment for engaging in targeted behavior. Judge Rotenberg Center employees routinely made intentional, non-consensual physical contact with Ms. Villa, referred to as physical prompts and supportive guides, in response to target behaviors such as noncompliance with the staff directions. These interventions caused Ms. Villa to fight back, resulting in frequent physical restraint procedures. During her 84-day stay at the Judge Rotenberg Center, Ms. Villa suffered 46 documented physical restraint procedures at the hands of its employees. She experienced as many as 5 restraint procedures in a single day. 1 per week. Right, doctor? Just 1 per week. These restraint procedures resulted in physical bruises. On multiple occasions, Judge Rotenberg Center employees used pain compliance techniques to control Ms. Villa's behavior during these restraint procedures by putting pressure on sensitive parts of her body, including skin covering her shunt. Oh my God. This is horrifying. In response to Ms. Villa's making what it claimed to be false allegations of abuse against its employees and threatening to harm herself, the Judge Rotenberg Center authorized staff to punish her in response to these behaviors. In particular, its employees began monitoring her conversations with her parents. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Yeah. They instructed Mr. and Mrs. Villa to dismiss her concerns or hang up on her when she made these statements to discourage her from doing so. Jesus. Believing that it was in their daughter's best interest to follow their instructions, Mr. and Miss Villa complied. The Judge Rotenberg's employees verbally and emotionally abused Miss Villa, telling her that her parents had dumped her there and that the program owned her, threatening to make her disappear in a nearby lake of bones, and on occasion punishing her by ripping the arm off her teddy bear and throwing the stuffed animal into the trash. On the 15th of February 2018, Devon Martinez, a residential coordinator employed by the Judge Rotenberg Center, struck Ms. Villa in the eye with his fist during a restraint procedure on the bus. The blow to the face caused Ms. Villa to suffer a concussion and bruising to her left eye, as well as persistent headaches and nausea for days afterward. She received treatment for her injuries at the Good Samaritan Hospital on 2 separate visits in the week that followed. It is presently unknown if the blow caused a traumatic brain injury or permanent eye injury. Upon hearing the defendants had injured their daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Villa booked a round-trip flight to Boston to withdraw Ms. Villa from the Judge Rotenberg Center immediately. They spent a week in Massachusetts while participating in the interviews with law enforcement investigators with the Department of Children and Families, and while Ms. Villa received medical treatment. The total travel costs, including the cost of round-trip flights, 7 nights in a hotel, a rental car, gas tolls, and feeding themselves in Miss Villa, amounted to approximately $5,000. The trip to Boston resulted in Mr. and Mrs. Villa losing income in the amount of $1,140. We're going to stop there, folks. But you see how horrifying this is. This is what the D.C. Circuit in Washington, D.C. signed off on. This is life-saving. What this is horrifying. This is what the JRC really is. This is what the Kool-Aid drinking parents have deemed as life-saving, life-improving treatment. Yeah. We're going to close out on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.